One of South Africa's most wanted suspects for cash in transit heists is to remain in custody in Mpumalanga. Wellington Bibi Cenenda was arrested during a crime intelligence operation.
The winter morning in Bloemfontein was unusually still, as though the city itself sensed that something monumental was about to unfold. On Friday, the 27th of July, 2018, the quiet streets bore witness to the dramatic end of a criminal empire built on fear, violence, and cold precision. His name was Wellington Cenenda, but to those who whispered it with a mix of fear and awe, he was simply known as Bibi. For years, he had orchestrated a reign of terror on South Africa's roads, masterminding at least 23 cash-in-transit heists that left behind shattered vehicles, broken lives, and a trail of blood-stained money. The very mention of Bibi's name sent chills through the ranks of law enforcement. He was not just a thief. He was a strategist, a man who studied the weaknesses of security companies and exploited them with military precision. Over the past 2 years alone, his syndicate is alleged to have stolen a staggering 46 million rand from armoured cash vans, tearing through the provinces of Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Limpopo as if they were his personal playground. For almost a month, he had managed to slip through the fingers of even the most determined investigators. He was, after all, South Africa's most wanted man. But every empire crumbles, no matter how powerful its ruler. And Bibi's downfall came, not through some grand betrayal or elaborate sting, but through what his pursuers later called a single foolish mistake. In the heart of Bloemfontein, on what was supposed to be an ordinary patrol, police officers noticed something about a particular car that raised their suspicions. It was not just the vehicle's make or model, but the way it moved, the way its driver seemed almost too careful, too aware of every turn and stop. Acting on instinct, they pulled it over. At first, it was routine, but the moment the officers leaned in and saw the man behind the wheel, their instincts flared like sirens. The car was stolen. That was enough to detain the driver. Yet as the questions grew sharper, the mask of anonymity fell away. The man they were questioning was not just another criminal with a stolen vehicle. It was him, Wellington Bibi Cenenda. He made a stupid mistake, a police source would later say, still sounding as though they could not believe the luck that had fallen into their laps. In that moment, the chase that had consumed countless hours, sleepless nights, and the combined effort of elite crime units across the nation came to a sudden, almost anticlimactic halt. Bibi, the mastermind who had stayed one step ahead of everyone for years, was finally in handcuffs. The arrest of Cenenda did not come in isolation. For months, the net around him had been tightening. His trusted lieutenants had been picked off one by one. Among them was Errol Present, a name that caused shockwaves not only in criminal circles, but in political ones as well. Present had worked at the ANC headquarters, Luthuli House, and had even been the party's branch secretary in Dobsonville. His fall from grace, coupled with his ties to Bibi's heist syndicate, revealed just how far the tentacles of this operation reached. It was the Hawks, South Africa's elite crime-busting unit, that had been the most relentless in their pursuit. They were patient hunters, sifting through layers of deception, tracking movements across provinces, and piecing together fragments of intelligence until the picture became clear. With Cenenda now in custody, their puzzle was complete. But as with any intricate web of crime, capturing the kingpin was only one part of the story. The courts would soon find themselves wrestling with the complex cases of Cenenda's co-accused, men who were every bit as dangerous and calculated as their leader. Among them was a name that would cause both outrage and disbelief: David Lebakeng Mokoduttle. In February 2021, years after the dust had seemingly settled, Mokoduttle emerged in headlines once again. He was granted bail of 100,000 rand by the Mpumalanga High Court, despite facing 3 counts of murder and over a dozen charges of attempted murder and armed robbery. His defense? A failing body. Mokajutul claimed that living with a single kidney left him vulnerable to COVID-19 in prison, and that endless trial delays had left him languishing without a set court date since his arrest back in September 2018. Judge Hein Broekman, delivering the decision, insisted that Mokadutul's release would not cause a public outcry, although he acknowledged it might dismay investigators who had risked their lives to bring him in. Many accused that allegedly stole or defrauded the government are released on bail subject to strict conditions, the judge said. The amounts involved in those matters are vast, and the damages done to the public immeasurable. Mokadutul was no minor player. The state alleged he had joined Cenenda in a violent cash-in-transit heist in Kriel, Mpumalanga in 2016, one of the dozens of heists linked to Bibi's sprawling network. His rap sheet read like a catalogue of violence: 3 counts of murder, 12 of attempted murder, and a series of aggravated robberies that echoed through the years. But what made the headlines shiver was a case from 2015. Mokadutul was accused of being part of a 10-man group responsible for a deadly ambush on the N3 freeway. It began as a routine police chase when officers from Sandringham pursued a recklessly driven BMW. As the police stopped behind it, a Mercedes-Benz pulled up, and what followed was a hail of bullets so fierce the officers never had a chance to defend themselves. 3 policemen died that day. The National Prosecuting Authority revealed chilling details, tying the group to a plan to rob a truck carrying cell phones and accessories from Tambo International Airport. While 2 of the men involved, Sandile Nyathakazi and Lucky Nunglaneen Zama, were sentenced in 2018 to a combined 125 years. Mokadutul's name lingered in the shadows of denial and accusation. He maintained his innocence, claiming that the men already convicted had confessed without implicating him. But the state argued otherwise, painting him as a man of unrelenting violence, someone who would interfere with witnesses and vanish if given the chance. Despite this, Mokadutul walked free under strict conditions, the judge siding with his argument that the delays in his trial had become unreasonable. "The court is very concerned about the delay in this matter," Judge Broekman stated. The bail decision, coming years after Cenenda's dramatic capture, left the public wondering, had the law's grasp truly tightened around this criminal network, or were its shadows still shifting, still waiting for the right moment to strike again? Back in 2018, when the walls were finally closing in on Wellington Cenenda, there was a sense that justice was about to take a decisive step forward. Hawk's spokesman Brigadier Hangwani Mulodzi delivered the news with a tone of finality that seemed to echo across the country. Cenenda, the man who had orchestrated carnage on South Africa's roads, would appear before the Kriel Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga on charges of murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, and illegal possession of firearms. But what made Bibi so elusive? Why did it take nearly a month, even after his lieutenants were captured, to bring him in? The answer lies in the meticulous operation that tracked him. For months, the team hunting Cenenda worked out of a single, nondescript room in downtown Johannesburg. It was far from glamorous, but every inch of that room told a story of obsession. Cell phone records sprawled across the table, tracing calls that formed the veins of his criminal network. Bank statements and title deeds were pinned to the walls, revealing the flow of money and the properties bought with stolen cash. Data on vehicles and firearms was catalogued in painstaking detail. It was a chess game played by forensic analysts, cybercrime experts, and detectives. Each move carefully calculated, each mistake potentially fatal. Their work was not in vain. Since the start of 2018, South Africa had endured 178 cash-in-transit heists. These attacks had claimed 17 lives and left 93 people seriously injured. The scale of the violence was staggering, and the urgency to stop it could not be overstated. Cenenda's arrest was not just another name crossed off a list. It was a strike against the very heart of a criminal underworld that thrived on fear and bloodshed. Yet, as with every great criminal story, the arrest of Bibi leaves as many questions as it answers. How did he rise to such prominence in the world of organised crime? Who financed his operations, and who will step into the void he leaves behind? Tembisa, his place of origin, whispers of a man who once blended into the crowd, unnoticed, until ambition and ruthlessness carved his name into infamy. Even now, as he awaits trial, the legacy of his crimes looms large. The victims of his heists, the security guards who faced the barrels of automatic weapons, the families who grieved their loved ones, and the millions lost to violence. All remain part of the shadow he cast over the country. But on that cold July morning, when the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the people of South Africa knew one thing with certainty. No matter how clever the criminal, no matter how daring the scheme, the law will wait, it will watch, and when the moment comes, it will strike. Yet, Cenenda's arrest did not spell the end of the nightmare on South Africa's roads. In fact, the years that followed saw an alarming escalation of violence, as cash-in-transit heists became almost commonplace. By early 2024, the nation found itself facing a grim reality. Violent crime was soaring to levels unseen in decades, with audacious daylight robberies and security van ambushes that resembled scenes from a war zone. The murder rate had reached a 20-year high, with more than 27,000 people killed in just a single year, and only 12% of those cases solved. It seemed as though getting away with murder had become disturbingly normal. For the public, already battered by high unemployment and poverty, crime had become an ever-present shadow. The cash-in-transit gangs were bolder than ever. Security vans were deliberately rammed off highways in full view of motorists, their armoured shells ripped apart by explosives, while heavily armed men roamed the roads with automatic weapons. These attacks were so brazen that ordinary traffic often flowed on the opposite side of the road while the gangs primed their bombs and prepared their getaway, sometimes even filmed by onlookers too shocked to intervene. Wal Bartman, the head of Fidelity Services Group, compared the gangs to terrorist units. "It's been very military organised, well executed," he said. "The way they plan these robberies makes it very difficult for our teams to stop them." His company lost 15 guards in a single year. Each life a sobering reminder of the dangers faced daily by those who transport South Africa's cash lifeblood from social grant funds to the earnings of banks and retailers. For guards like Lenience, who survived one such hijacking, the fear is palpable. "As a human being, I'm scared," he admitted. "I might not come back, but that's life for everyone in SIT." His words speak for an entire industry that lives under constant siege. The streets of South Africa are now patrolled by private security forces that outnumber the police, a testament to how deeply fear has reshaped the nation. Lisette Lancaster, from the Institute for Security Studies, calls it a private securitization of public spaces, where those who cannot afford private protection are left vulnerable and often turn to vigilante groups. But beneath the surface, another unsettling truth lingers. The sheer sophistication of these heists points to a level of organisation and intelligence that rivals military operations. These are not desperate criminals stumbling into opportunity. These are syndicates, each with defined roles, planners who study armoured vehicle routes for weeks, spotters who track security vans in unmarked cars, and explosives experts who blow open cash safes with terrifying precision. Investigations reveal that these syndicates often employ former soldiers, men with years of combat experience who know how to lay ambushes, execute quick strikes, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. A single attack can be orchestrated with multiple stolen vehicles, decoy drivers, and heavy caliber firearms that match or exceed those used by law enforcement. The rise in such attacks has even changed the way ordinary South Africans drive. Many motorists avoid highways after dark, fearful of accidentally driving into the aftermath of a heist, a twisted wreck of metal, torn banknotes scattered like confetti, and the lingering smell of explosives in the air. Dashcam footage and cell phone videos of these ambushes circulate online, painting an almost cinematic picture of the terror on the roads. Even with thousands of new police recruits sworn in over the past 2 years, crime detection rates have fallen drastically, down over 60% since 2012. The grim truth is clear. Cenenda's capture may have been a victory, but the war against organised violent crime in South Africa is far from over.
The shadow of Wellington Cenenda's crimes may have been partially lifted, but South Africa's roads still tell stories of danger, courage, and the ongoing fight against syndicates that operate with chilling precision. Every arrest is a battle won, yet the war against violent crime rages on. If you found this story gripping and want to uncover more hidden truths behind South Africa's most shocking crimes, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. We have more investigations coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next.